do you differentiate between inertial and non-inertial system? So till now, whatever classical mechanics we usually study, it's more or less the beginning is from Newton's law. So whenever we say force is equal to mass into acceleration, we are into the field of classical mechanics, okay? Or in general, we also call it as the Newtonian mechanics. So if we basically try to understand that what is the motion of a body, most of the time we understand it from the point of view of a reference frame. So I have a reference frame, and then you are there, okay, and a body is moving, okay, and you are observing the object in that particular reference frame. For example, you are inside a bus and some person is moving inside a bus. So you can say that, okay, the person is moving with this much velocity and so on, right? So you are also in that same reference frame. So if you are on the Earth's surface, okay, and all practical purposes, let's say you are there and the Earth's surface is the reference frame and a body is moving, and then you are given a mass, you want to find out what is the force acting on it, if the acceleration is this much meter per second square, and then you do your calculation, you find out what is the force acting in that body, right? So this is what is inertial frame is all about, okay? So whenever we basically have an inertial system, the Newton's second law of motion works, okay? And we have got F is equal to ma, okay? So ai, just it means that we are talking about an inertial system. So F is the applied force, and A is nothing but the acceleration observed in inertial system. Now imagine a satellite, okay, or a planet revolving around the sun, okay. That is basically more or less in a non-inertial frame. In simple word, it means that it's not the acceleration. There is some reduction in acceleration also because of, let's say, the friction, the viscous drag, and so on. So if the acceleration is not a pure quantity, there are more terms added to it, we are more or less talking about a non-inertial frame, okay? So some examples, so it should not be very confusing, okay? Let's just move ahead. So, you know, if you're moving in an elevator, that is also an example of a non-inertial system, okay? So what happens in a non-inertial system is, if you're basically taking an example of rotating Earth or the centrifuge, okay? You know, you have a machine which is called a centrifuge machine, okay? You you use to separate out the cream from the milk, and all those kind of things are done in a centrifuge machine. But we are also using it in the lab, okay? When you join the classes, you will see it, there is a centrifuge machine in the lab also for experimental purposes, okay? So this equation 1, that means F is equal to ma, is not valid, okay? So what we have is not a simple acceleration, there are more terms into it, okay? So it is not simply F is equal to, we have more. So the mass m, the total acceleration, okay? So maybe I can use it to be n or ni, okay, rather than I. But anyway, so what is A? A here is the acceleration of the body as inertial acceleration in the non-inertial phase, okay? So that is important, okay? And then AI, okay? So here I've just represented the non-inertial frame acceleration as just A, okay? Not A with any subscript. AI is the acceleration in the inertial frame. Okay. So if you basically consider A as the acceleration of the body as the measured in the non-inertial frame, and what is A naught? A naught is the acceleration of the non-inertial system relative to the inertial system. So what does this mean? This is simple. You have got two frames of reference now. This is one frame of reference, and let's say this is one more frame of reference. Okay. So if this is fixed, let's say this is fixed, this is moving. So let's say this is moving with an acceleration, okay, or m, whatever I have notation of used. So a naught is the acceleration of the non-inertial system. So we can consider this to be the non-inertial system relative to the inertial system. So this is your inertial system. Okay. So if you are standing out, okay, and a bus is moving and the person is there inside the bus, okay, you are in the non-inertial frame, the person inside the, sorry, you are in the inertial frame, the person inside the bus is in a non-inertial frame, okay? So the acceleration that you measure is different, okay, from the acceleration that the person measures who is inside the bus. So that is important. Okay, but anyway, we're going to look into more examples. Should not be very complicated. So now we understand that this acceleration is different. Okay, altogether it's different. So now if you want to write down the acceleration, it will be nothing but m into a plus a naught. Okay, it will be m into a plus a naught. Okay, so this is there, and this is the acceleration of the non-inertial frame. Okay, okay, of the system within the non-inertial frame, and this is the acceleration of the non-inertial frame with respect to the inertial frame. So the frame is also moving, and the object which is there in the non-inertial frame is also moving. The object which is moving in the non-inertial frame has an acceleration a, and the non-inertial frame has an acceleration a naught with respect to the inertial frame. So let's just do a bit of maths here. We're just taking m and a naught together, taking it on the other side. So f minus m into a naught is equal to m a bar. Okay. So this can be written as f plus f naught. So you see, if original force was f, this is reduced by a amount of m a naught. So another force f naught also comes into the picture, which is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay. So what is this acceleration? The acceleration of the body in the non-inertial field. So this f naught, if you see into the replacement that I've done, it is minus m a naught bar. This is the fictitious force. Okay. So this is basically sometimes also called the pseudo force or not a real force. But in general, it is termed as a fictitious force because what happens is this is reducing the original force. Okay. So if you have got a force F, as soon as you switch into a non-inertial frame, there is an additional force which comes into the picture, which is minus m a, which is called the fictitious force, the pseudo force, or even not real force. Sometimes it is mentioned. Okay, so let's just have a look here. Okay, what exactly is happening? Okay, let's take an example and try to understand it better. So f naught is basically nothing but the effect of acceleration on the non-inertial frame itself. Okay, so what is f naught? F naught represents the effect of acceleration of the non-inertial frame itself. So what happens is if the non-inertial frame is moving with respect to our inertial frame, that will also have an effect. Okay, just a second. Okay, so okay, so what happens is this, that we do have a non-inertial frame which is moving, and this will actually have an acceleration of its own, which results in generation of an additional force F1. Okay, so you know that non-inertial frame does not have a simple acceleration, it does have an additional term there. So if you're considering a freely falling body, let's say we are considering an elevator, we are going from the top of the building and it is going down. Okay, this fictitious force occurs in case of this freely falling body. Okay, and then if it is falling under the action of gravity, that particular acceleration would be nothing but g. Okay, okay, and as per the sign convention, we can take it as minus g, and k will be the direction. So let's say it's going downwards. Let's say that is representing the z-axis. So let's say that's the k cap. Okay. So let the acceleration of the non-inertial frame of freely falling elevator. So freely falling elevator is just an example we're taking, and then we are saying that this is the acceleration that it has. So now we have an a naught value. Okay, so we do have an a naught value. So basically what happens is this. I think k naught and all, these are vectors, simple idea. K naught is a unit vector upward from the surface of the earth. Okay, and g is the acceleration due to gravity. So now you can write down what is your F naught, which is nothing but the fictitious force. Okay, So fictitious force now can be written as minus m a naught, and a naught is g into k, minus g into k. Okay, so since it's going downwards, so we're just taking it to be mgk. Okay, so mgk, so that's important. I can put a cap there. Okay, so let's have an example. Okay, this is just a way to understand it by taking an example. Let's say I have got an unattached body in the elevator, and this will basically be acted on by the gravitational force. Okay, so if we just consider the value here, okay, if we just consider this, what happens is this Fichte's force that is basically acting on this particular body is nothing but your mgk. Okay, mgk. So that is your mgk, and if you consider the total apparent force, it will be F plus F naught, which is equal to 0. Now, you know, there is a term which we basically call as weightlessness. So if you have taken a flight, okay, or if you're taking an elevator and if it's falling freely, of course, it's very dangerous. It doesn't fall that freely. But in general, if you're having a free fall, you will experience a weightlessness. If you've gone into that merry-go-round, when it comes down, you are experiencing a weightlessness. So this weightlessness can be explained by this particular equation. If it is falling freely, you do have an acceleration here, and we have an equal and opposite force F naught. We have a force F naught acting, and we have got an equal and opposite force F naught acting. Okay, and that is basically nothing but cancelling the force that is acting on the body. So this will result in something which we call as weightlessness. The body will feel zero force here. Okay. So this is a good example of a non-inertial frame of reference. So if you're taking a merry-go-round, or if you're taking an elevator, or you are in a flight which is coming down, these are all examples of non-inertial frame. More the fictitious force, and it's going to cancel the force F. It's going to be more or less an weightlessness experience that you're going to have. Okay, so the total apparent force, that means the force that you feel, okay, in the non-inertial frame of a freely falling elevator. So this is an example of weightlessness, okay, that you can actually see. So why this is important from classical point of view? Because you know the life is not that simple that you're just going to study about linear motion. We're going to talk about accelerated motion, circular motion. We're going to talk about relativity, okay, speed of light, and so on. So if you're including these things, understanding frames of reference becomes very important. Okay. Some more examples might be this. Okay, I think I've already explained weightlessness. The body is unaccelerated. Okay, the body is usually unaccelerated in the non-inertial frame. Okay, so if you are in an non-inertial frame and the body is falling freely, you won't feel the acceleration. In fact, you will feel a weightlessness. Okay, so the unattached body, so you are not attached to the elevator, right? It's like you are there, okay, or if you consider a spaceship, you know that they experience weightlessness, okay, in space. So that is, I think, that an unattached body, okay, it will basically appear to remain suspended in space and experience weightlessness. So that is just an addition to that. That's an example. Okay. So as I said, in a merry-go-round, okay, if you go, you know what is the acceleration? It is nothing but minus omega square r bar. Okay, and with the respect to the inertial frame, r is the outward force. Is outward from the axis of rotation, the direction of r. Okay, so this will also be the acceleration that is acting there, and this acceleration balances the force. Okay, this acceleration usually balances the force. Okay, and then if you just want to calculate what is the fictitious force here, you can just simply take it to be minus m a naught. Okay, a naught bar, which is m omega square r. So what is this m omega square r? Okay, this is nothing but the centrifugal force, if you remember, centrifugal force away from the axis. So whenever you have a point around which our body is rotating, as we have seen in the previous example, also in the previous class, this will basically have a centrifugal force acting on it. Okay, and this is nothing but a radial force moving in the outward direction. Okay, so if you want to really find out the direction between the position vector and the velocity, okay, this will always be 90 degrees. So sine 90 will be 1. So basically, if you are basically taking it as the centrifugal force, the cross product sine 90 will give you 1, which you have seen in the last class. Okay, and then the direction will always be radially outward. Okay, so this is an example of centrifugal force, but then this is also an example of we're talking about here this fictitious force. Okay, so this will be a good example of a non-inertial frame. So a planet revolving around the sun, a satellite in space, okay, or a spaceship there, okay, or a merry-go-round, all are examples of non-inertial frame. You are inside an elevator, again an example of non-inertial frame. So this is important because we are going to use this in our next unit also. So let's just keep a note of this. Okay. Next, we are going to also talk about translational motion. Okay. So let's talk a bit about translational motion now. So I could take a break, but let's just finish this topic. So here also we are going to talk about the frames of reference, but we are going to just talk about, to keep things simple, we're just going to talk about the motion along the x-axis. Okay, so uh, in general, if you are basically considering two frames of reference, you know there are certain things which are important. One is basically the uh, origin. Okay, so you have got two frame of reference. Okay, so this is the origin of one of the frames of reference, and O dash is the origin of another frame of reference. So you might be either here or you might be here. Okay, so if you are here, let's say you are in a bus, sorry, you are in the ground, and maybe this is a person who is inside the bus. So your friend is inside the bus, okay, and you are on the ground. So you are in one frame of reference, and your friend is in another frame of reference. Okay. So if you want to measure the distance of, let's say your friend, let's say this point P, okay, from the origin, you can just draw a vector here, which is the position vector, which is nothing but r. Okay, and then if you just consider the vector addition, what you can do is you can go from here to this frame of reference origin, capital R, and then you can go here. So that is the vector addition. So this r is nothing but r dash plus capital R. Okay? So this is normal vectors. So just go for the explanation here. We have got O and O dash are the origin of the two coordinate system. Okay? We're considering two coordinate system. And R dash T, RT, and R bar T are respective position vectors. So the position vector here is actually important because you are going to find out what is the velocity, okay, at a particular time. So if you know the position, you can easily find out the velocity. Okay, so a time is also important because you know if this frame is moving, let's say this is moving with a velocity v. रुक जाओ, कुत्ते का भौंकना बंद हो जाए पहले. A bit of noisy neighborhood. So what happens is that you basically have got these two frames of reference. And then also important, I said, because you know if you're considering a position and if the body is moving and if you want to know the position vector, you also have to know what is the time, at what time are we considering that. Okay, so that is important, so we know this, fine. And the velocity of the two coordinates are here related. Okay, so I think this is very simple. If the position is related, the velocity will also be related, right? Obviously. So we can just take the dot product. Okay, sorry, not dot product, the dot of that. Okay, so dr dt and so on. So it will be r dot t is equal to capital R dot t into r dash dot t. Okay, that's the velocity. So velocity t is equal to capital Vt into v dash t. This is how it is denoted. Okay, you can use a different notation altogether. Okay, so this is v, this is v dash, and this is capital V. Okay, so let's just go back and check what is capital V. So you see this is R, capital R. Okay, so this is capital R. So capital V is nothing but the velocity of this frame with respect to the frame which is not moving. Okay, so the frame O dash velocity with respect to O, that will represent capital V. Okay, so that's simple. So what happens here is that once we know the velocity, we actually can define certain parameters. We can also talk about acceleration now. And as soon as we start talking about acceleration, we are slowly shifting to that thing of inertial and non-inertial frame. Okay, so the translation of the primed system with respect to the unprimed system. Okay, so very important, because we are considering something which is more realistic in nature. If you are on the earth's surface, you are going to measure what is the velocity of a spaceship from the earth's surface. You have to understand what do you exactly mean by primed and unprimed system. So these all things have got practical application. Okay, so this capital VT, okay, is nothing but velocity with which the primed coordinate moves with respect to the unprimed coordinate system. That is what this V is all about. Okay, so we're talking about this, exactly what I mentioned. Then we can also find out what is the acceleration. Acceleration is also a function of time, of course. It's nothing but you can take this V dot t, and this will be nothing but capital AT plus A dash t. For your exam purposes, you have to just keep in mind that you don't mix up capital, small, dash, not dash. Okay, so whenever you put a dash, that means you are considering a prime system. Whenever you don't put a dash, that means you're considering the system which is with respect to the O coordinate, right? And so on. So please make sure that you don't mix that up. Okay, this topic does not have too many questions, direct questions, but then I will ask you explain the difference between a primed and an unprimed system when a body is moving with a velocity v, and so on. Okay, those kind of simple questions which you can easily answer even if you just understand it today's class only. Even if you don't study it later, still you can answer it or something. It should not be very difficult because the ideas are quite simple here. Okay. Okay, so we basically are going to consider two systems now. Okay, and let's consider these two systems. So just have a look here. This is a different figure altogether. What I am saying here is this: we have got a system, coordinate origin is O, and we have got another system, origin is O dash. Okay, so this is the prime frame of reference. This is the unprimed frame of reference. Okay, and for simplicity, what we say is that the velocity of the unprimed system, just prime system, along, so we can consider it, but we are not doing it right now. We are just saying with respect to the x-axis. Okay, so this entire axis will represent the x coordinate and of course the x dash coordinate. So at time t is equal to 0, that means let's say both the bodies are in the same frame of reference. Okay, so both of the bodies are here. Both the bodies are here. Okay, so both the system are fixed. The second system, that means the prime system, has not yet started its journey. Okay, so that's important. So you are here at O at time t is equal to 0. Okay, just have a read at the sentences. I and I dash are the two inner frames. Individually they are inertial, okay, not with respect to each other. For convenience, we can say I dash, which is the dash frame of reference, is moving with uniform velocity, okay, along the x-axis. Okay, and the velocity is v. Okay, that's quite obvious from the diagram. And what happens is their axis will coincide at time t is equal to 0. So that means the journey has not yet started. You know, velocity is distance by time. Okay, so until and unless you have covered some time, you cannot say that there is a velocity. Okay, so initially it is at rest, both of them. So at time t is equal to 0, both are here. So at time t is equal to 0, O is also here, O dash is also here. Okay, but this is valid only at t is equal to 0. So that is important. Then what happens? The second frame starts moving with a velocity v. Okay, so once it starts moving with a velocity v, what we can say about the x dash now? Okay, x dash is the position. Okay, so x dash, okay, which is the position, can be now written as x minus vt. Okay, so you understand this. If you are considering from here to here, this is x dash, and from here to here, this is x, and both are same at time t is equal to 0. If the velocity or the body, the body starts moving, okay, that means this dash frame, reference frame, starts moving. It has actually covered this much distance now. Okay, what is this distance? Distance is nothing but velocity with which it is moving into time. So we know velocity into time is equal to distance, right? Or velocity is distance by time, so distance is velocity into time. So this much distance it has already covered. Initially it was at a distance of x dash from here. Now it has covered vt. That means it has gone nearer to the point where it wants to reach, let's say. Okay, so now this distance would be nothing but x, okay, which was the original distance minus whatever distance it has covered. So if you look into the figure, this is very obvious. Okay, this is very obvious, and this is written as x dash is equal to x minus dt. Okay, at time t is equal to 0, x dash and x were same. Okay, but is there any motion along the y-axis? The answer is no. So y dash is y. No motion along z-axis, so dash is equal to z. Okay, and the time that is measured by this is the same as the time measured by this. So basically, t dash will remain as t. That will also be the same. We are not considering anything relativistic here. The velocity is normal velocity. 10 kilometer per hour, 20, 30, 40 kilometer per hour, normal, nothing relativistic. Okay. When we say something as relativistic, we say that the velocity is comparable to the speed of light. So that is, it is comparable to 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. We're going to see that in relativity. Okay, so it's not relativistic, so the time is more or less the same. If it's relativistic, definitely there are different variations altogether. Okay, so this is what is the aim of this particular topic, and this is something which I might ask also, again a part of the question, Galilean transformation. So these equations, that means this and this, all four of them together are called Galilean transformation. Considering a linear motion, what are the equations for Galilean transformation? And you can just simply do this. And you see, this is more of a qualitative analysis, not much maths involved. Okay, if you just understand that reference frame and you understand what happens at time t, with the frame I dash starts moving with the velocity v with respect to the frame I, you can easily write down what is x dash. And once you write down these four equations, this is called the Galilean transformation. Okay, so we are also going to look into Lorentz transformation. That is more of a relativistic case, but that's later. But now we have to understand this. Okay, and this is very simple. I think you have already heard about the term. Some of you might have already done it also, but then it's my job that I start everything from the basic. That's very important. So similarly, if you consider the velocity also, Vx dash, okay, what you can do is you can just take dx dash by dt. So that will be Vx dash, dx will be Vx, and then ddt of v into t, it is nothing but capital V, okay. Why? Because this v is nothing but the constant velocity with which the second frame is moving with respect to the first frame. So the velocity is constant, you can take it out, ddt of t is 1, so this is just v, done. Next, along Vy dash, there is no velocity, so I just keep it as Vy. Vz dash will remain as Vz. Okay, so this is basically a special case for which you get from Galilean transformation. What about acceleration? Acceleration, ax dash will remain as ax. That means it's a inertial frame we are talking about. There is no additional acceleration there. That means there is no additional force there, and that is why everywhere I've talked about it as inertial frame. So what is the most important takeaway point here? That the velocity v is constant with respect to the frame I. The velocity v of I dash is constant with respect to the frame I. If that is the case, we can definitely say that ax dash is ax. So acceleration is same in both the cases. Okay, if you're measuring from one frame or the other frame. So it means that it's an inertial frame of the frame, not a non-inertial case. And let me tell you, we are not going to tackle much of non-inertial case in this syllabus. So ay dash will remain as ay, az dash will remain as az. If any of them has an additional component with ax, ay, or az, we shift into the non-inertial frame study. We're not going to do that. Okay, not a part of our syllabus right now. So velocity is constant in an inertial frame. That's the key point. Okay, so probably the entire lecture is summed up by this particular line. Velocity is constant in an inertial frame. Very good. Okay, so if you understand that, I think this is fine. Okay, so what are these three equations? So the first equation is the Galilean transformation. Okay, and the second equation in terms of velocity, and the third equation in terms of acceleration. Okay, these are basically called kinematics. Okay, so you know, if you want to describe the dynamics of a body, motion of a body, you have to know the kinematics, equation of kinematics, and so on, right? So these are nothing but the kinematical equation of a point in the two inertial frames. So whether you consider the force mass into acceleration in the first frame, f dash is ma dash in the frame of reference, in the prime frame of reference. Okay, so what do we see here is that the Newton's law will basically remain the same in both the frame, or in general we basically say that they are covariant. Okay, this definitely has a term. Okay, this is basically uh, uh, it was actually written in your in a book which was written by Newton also. This is basically nothing but the Newton's principle of relativity. This is the Newton's principle of relativity. You know, when we are talking about relativistic case, we are considering the speed of light and so on. But in general, if you consider something as relative, that means, let's say, the velocity of one body with respect to another body. That is nothing but we call as the relative velocity and so on. Okay. So this everything comes under the idea of relativity. Okay. So this is basically called the Newton's principle of relativity. So the question might be, what is Newton's principle of relativity? So the answer might be, I think I've explained everything here, but you can write it down in your own words also. So what you can say is, if you consider two frames of reference, I and I dash, and let's say I dash is moving with a constant velocity v. The word constant is very important here. Constant velocity v with respect to the fixed frame of reference. Okay, we have the Newton's law f is equal to ma and f dash is equal to ma dash, valid in both the frames. That is, they are covariant. This is Newton's principle of relativity.